Melania stands by her man. Former First Lady supports Donald Trump in his indictment. Despite any lingering anger over Stormy Daniels' affair, Melania Trump is standing by her husband, a source close to the former First Lady told DailyMail.com. Despite any lingering anger at him, as Donald Trump faces criminal indictment related to charges he paid hush money to porn star Stormy Daniels, Mrs. Trump is strong. She is focused on her family and stands behind her husband, as she always has, the source told DailyMail.com exclusively. For the past 7 years, the left has made multiple attempts to smear and attack her family, and this is just the latest attempt to bring him down. The statement of support is a change in tactic for Melania Trump, who was furious when reports of Trump's extramarital fling with Daniels surfaced. He has denied the affair and any wrongdoings. Ivanka Trump, who is said to be estranged from her father, also expressed support for him on Friday, as the family closes circle around their patriarch in his hour of legal need. Donald Trump, 76, will be arraigned in Manhattan at 2:15 p.m. on Tuesday. Exact charges haven't been revealed yet, but reports indicate there are more than 30 counts. Melania Trump is not expected to accompany the former president to New York when he is arraigned on Tuesday, sources speculated, but plans could change before then. She is currently with the former president at their Mar-a-Lago home in West Palm Beach, Florida, where she was literally pictured at his side. The couple had dinner together, seated next to each other in the private club's ornate dining room, and worked the room, staying at each other's side. According to pictures posted on social media, Melania Trump wore a vivid red dress, making it easy to pick her out in the crowd. For the former First Lady, who often lets her clothes speak for her, it was a bold statement, and, if the historic case, the first against a former president, goes to trial, she would be a powerful presence in the courtroom, standing by his side as he faced a jury. Her presence there could also strengthen his case in other ways, particularly if his lawyers use a Melania Trump defense. Investigators were looking into whether the $130,000 to Daniels violated federal campaign finance laws. Donald Trump's legal team has publicly argued the payment had nothing to do with winning the presidential election, but was about Donald Trump saving himself from embarrassment and protecting his marriage to Melania. It's not directly related to the campaign, Trump lawyer Joe Tacopina told ABC's Good Morning America earlier this month. He made this with personal funds to prevent something coming out that was false but embarrassing to himself, his family, his young son, and sources told DailyMail.com earlier this month that the former president worried Melania Trump would leave him if the affair became public. Trump was beside himself that Melania would find out the details of his indiscretion, an indiscretion with a porn star no less. He knew what the consequences could be, and he would do whatever he could to keep a lid on it, a source said. In previous scandals, Melania Trump has stood beside her husband. During the 2016 presidential campaign, when an old Access Hollywood interview came to light, showing Donald Trump speaking disparagingly of women, she supported him, publicly defending him in an interview on CNN. But the former First Lady was furious when news of the Stormy Daniels affair broke 5 years ago. She had been blindsided by it when it broke, so it was notable when the payment to Daniels was revealed by the Wall Street Journal in January 2018. Melania Trump went silent. Daniels was paid just before the 2016 election to keep quiet about an affair that she said she had had a decade earlier with Donald Trump, when the Trumps were newlyweds, and soon after Melania had given birth to their son, the report said. Then President Trump promptly denied everything. At the time, Melania Trump, then the First Lady, canceled her plans to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos with Trump. She had been scheduled to go. Instead, she visited Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. with her mother, and then flew to Mar-a-Lago, taking time to enjoy herself in the on-site spa. Her first public appearance after the revelation was at Trump's State of the Union address. She wore a white pantsuit and was escorted into the event by an attractive, young male military officer. Now, on Friday, she joined the rest of Donald Trump's family in showing her support for him. Earlier that day, Ivanka Trump released a brief statement, saying "I love my father," and that she felt pain for both him and the country. "I love my father and I love my country. Today I am paying for both," she wrote in a post that appeared in her Instagram stories. "I appreciate the voices across the political spectrum expressing support and concern," she added. Ivanka and her father appeared to have a strained relationship since he left the White House. The two were close there. She served as an advisor in his administration, and Trump was plain in his admiration for her and her skills. But during the congressional hearings on the January 6 insurrection, Ivanka Trump revealed she didn't believe her father's claim that the 2020 election was stolen from him, and aides revealed Ivanka Trump had tried to get her father to act on that day to call off his supporters as they swarmed the Capitol. She also expressed support for then Vice President Mike Pence, who resisted pressure from President Trump to send the 2020 election results back to the states. Ivanka Trump declined to join her father's 2024 president campaign and was not at his announcement that he would seek another term. This time around, I am choosing to prioritize my young children and the private life we are creating as a family, she said in a statement hours after his announcement. I do not plan to be involved in politics. While I will always love and support my father, going forward I will do so outside the political arena. She was one of the last of the former president's children to speak. Tiffany Trump has made no statement, but rarely speaks in public, and Barron Trump is still in high school. Trump's two oldest sons were out defending him shortly after the indictment was revealed on Thursday night. Donald Trump Jr., the former president's oldest son, slammed the crazed weaponization of the entire federal government against political enemies, calling his father's indictment communist-level estad. After the indictment came out, he said on Rumble's Triggered with Donald Trump Jr., "Let's be clear, folks, this is like communist-level st. This is stuff that would make Mao, Stalin, Pol Pot. It would make them blush. It's so flagrant. It's so crazed when even like the radical leftists of the Washington Post are out there saying it's not really based on facts. For those people who said it's not real, Trump's making it up. It's not a real issue for us. If you don't think that the weaponization of the entire federal government against their political enemies, against the voters half of the country approximately as we've seen, if you don't think that's a problem, you don't even belong in any position in government, let alone president." And Eric Trump slammed the indictment in an interview with DailyMail.com, calling it a ruthless attack and an example of the decline of American law. "This is the opportunistic targeting of a political opponent in a campaign year," he said. "They are ruthlessly attacking my father because he dared challenge the political elite," he continued. "This is Exhibit A to the decline of American law." Donald Trump has claimed to be a victim of the weaponization of the federal government. He claims the legal investigations against him are politically motivated by Democrats who want to keep him out of the White House. The gloves are off. Trump goes after soft-on-crime Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and his wife after grand jury indictment, as protesters turn out at Trump Tower, while his fans swarm Mar-a-Lago. Former President Donald Trump has launched a social media assault on Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, the Democratic prosecutor going after him for alleged fraud, and even took aim at his wife in the most recent round of complaints since he was indicted last night. Trump, 76, will be arraigned in Manhattan at 2:15 p.m. on Tuesday on an array of business fraud charges relating to 2016 hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. He has denied any personal wrongdoing and says he is the victim of a politically motivated witch hunt led by the famously Democratic Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. The charges are not yet known. Only once he is formally charged in person will the indictment become unsealed. While he waits for that to happen, Trump is not holding back in his criticism of Bragg. Today, he reposted several news videos and campaign trailers by Bragg's opponents, which described him as one of the worst DAs in the country and shamed him for not prosecuting many violent crimes. Bragg is among a handful of Democratic prosecutors around the country who has received funding from mega donor George Soros. Not only does Trump think that Bragg is motivated by political hatred, he also brought his wife into the discourse today, hosting tweets by a Real Clear Politics journalist, who said she'd previously shared her own disdain for the president online. In March 2022, before Manhattan grand jury began hearing evidence, DA Alvin Bragg's wife Jamila retweeted a report that claimed that her husband has Trump nailed on felonies. Jamila Bragg has since locked her Twitter account. One of the tweets by reporter and columnist Paul Sperry said. In another, he said, anti-Trump DA Alvin Bragg's wife Jamila Ponton has locked her Twitter page, changing her account status from open to protected. For several years, Ashvin Tonbrig has railed against Trump and retweeted posts calling him racist and advocating for his arrest. Ponton Bragg has now made her Twitter account private. Perry did not provide any screenshots of the tweets he said she'd posted. She and Bragg have been married for 20 years and share 2 children. Yesterday, Judge Juan Merchan was spotted arriving at the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse in casual clothes last night, flanked by 2 security officers. leading many to believe that he has been chosen for the case. Merchant previously presided over the Trump Organization fraud trial, where the family business was fined $1.2 million on a range of charges. On Friday morning, Trump took to Truth Social to complain that Merchant hates him and had been handpicked by Bragg and his cronies. His daughter Ivanka said the indictment has left her feeling pain for both him and her country. Meanwhile, anti-Trump protesters gathered in force outside Trump Tower in Manhattan to celebrate the indictment. They held up protest signs that read "Lock him up," a play on his supporters' old chants about Hillary Clinton. Trump, writing on Truth Social, fumed about the judge. "The judge assigned to my witch hunt case, a case that has never been charged before, hates me. His name is Juan Manuel Marchin, was handpicked by Bragg and the prosecutors, which didn't plead viciously, appealing." He also complained about how Merchant railroaded Alan Weisselberg, the former Trump Org. CFO, into taking a plea deal. Trump claims he forced Weisselberg to admit guilt, and that he treated anyone who didn't viciously. The Trump Organization was found guilty of a series of tax crimes last year. As part of that case, Judge Merchant fined the organization $1.2 million, but neither Trump nor any of his children were personally charged or held liable. The indictment against him signals the first time a U.S. president has ever been criminally charged. Trump and his attorneys say it's a political witch hunt designed to hurt his chances in the 2024 election. Among his few remaining supporters in Washington is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has vowed to come to New York next week to protest the indictment and offer Trump her support. Both President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris refused to comment on the indictment. Vice President Kamala Harris, on a high-profile trip to Africa that has been overshadowed by the Trump news, also refused to comment on the former president. "I am not going to comment on an ongoing criminal case as it relates to the former president," she told reporters at a press conference in Zambia. President Biden repeatedly refused to answer questions outside the White House this morning. Earlier on Friday, his attorney Joe Tacopina made a series of early morning TV appearances to fight his corner. He insisted Trump would not be put in handcuffs when he is arraigned on Tuesday, and that the Secret Service will prevent a circus outside the courthouse. "The president will not be put in handcuffs. As far as a mugshot perp walk, I am sure they will try to make sure they get some joy out of it by parading him. But this is a different situation," he said during an appearance on Good Morning America. "You have Secret Service involved, a lot of different groups involved. I don't think they're going to allow this to become a circus." He added that even though he is yet to see the indictment or know what the specific charges are, he does not believe they are warranted. Despite predicting his own arrest, Tacopina said he was still shocked that the grand jury decided to indict him. "Despite all the rumors, we believed and hoped that the rule of law would prevail. He was initially shocked. After he got over that, he put a notch on his belt, and he, decided we have to fight now." Now, he is in a typical Donald Trump posture. He is ready to be combative on something he feels is an injustice. Tacopina said Trump will plead not guilty, and that he will immediately begin aggressively fighting the case. "His knees don't buckle. He is ready to fight this," he said. Calling it an unprecedented case, he fumed. The rule of law died yesterday. In a separate interview on Good Morning America, Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney who was previously convicted of campaign finance violations and tax evasion, took a victory lap. He said Trump should be more concerned with the court of law than with the court of public opinion. President Biden declined to comment when approached by reporters outside the White House. Trump and his wife Melania were captured just hours after a grand jury recommended that he be indicted over a $130,000 hush money payment to former porn star Stormy Daniels. A photo of the couple was posted to Twitter on Thursday evening by Gina Loudon, a conservative media commentator, who tweeted, "Beautiful evening here at the gorgeous Mar-a-Lago. Our real first couple enveloped in the love of their friends and most loyal." She then added, "Sorry to disappoint corporate media. Actually not. Screw you. This is a happiness you will never know, sadly." The ex-president and frontrunner to be Republican nominee in 2024 said he is completely innocent and has dismissed the accusations as politically motivated. He is set to face a mug shot, fingerprinting, and a court appearance next week following the indictment. The appearance came as the Trump team was working out how to handle the news, which came as a shock. They had not expected a decision for several weeks, given announcements about the Manhattan grand jury's schedule. Trump supporters were dispatched to news channels to argue that the case was political persecution, with Alan Dershowitz, a lawyer who represented Trump in his first impeachment, arguing that a fair trial was impossible in Manhattan. He said the trial should be moved from the Democrat stronghold to Staten Island, the only one of the 5 boroughs of New York City to vote Republican. The news also caused consternation in Washington, D.C., according to a report. The New York Times said that some in the Justice Department were concerned that the charges could overshadow and perhaps complicate their own cases, which are felt to be stronger. The Justice Department has a special counsel, Jack Smith, investigating efforts to overturn the election and the handling of Mar-a-Lago classified documents. It is unclear when those investigations will conclude. Trump's lawyer has said he will travel to Manhattan to be arraigned on Tuesday, when he could face as many as 30 charges related to business fraud. The former president huddled with lawyers and advisors at his Mar-a-Lago home on Thursday evening, after news broke that a Manhattan jury had voted to indict him over a $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels. Responding to the news last night, Daniels tweeted, "Thank you to everyone for your support and love. I have so many messages coming in that I can't respond, also don't want to spill my champagne. Number 2 Stormy merch autograph orders are pouring in, too. Thank you for that as well. But allow a few extra days for shipment." Trump has blasted the indictment and said Democrats would regret persecuting an innocent man when his supporters dumped them out of office. In the meantime, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said it was in touch with Trump's lawyers to arrange his surrender in New York. A source told DailyMail.com that the head of Trump's security detail recently traveled to Manhattan to review arrangements, and that the former president would likely be formally arrested next week. That could be as soon as Tuesday. Susan Nichols, one of his lawyers, told the New York Times. Although the indictment is sealed for now, CNN reported that it contained more than 30 criminal charges. The Democrats have lied, cheated and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump. But now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference, Trump said in an emailed statement. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The indictment marks the end of a 5-year investigation into cash paid to the adult movie star in 2016, allegedly to buy her silence about their affair. And it takes the country into uncharted political and legal territory. Although being charged with a crime would not disqualify him from running for office, it does mean a leading 2024 candidate faces the humiliation of arrest. A spokesperson for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said talks had begun to bring Trump to New York. "This evening we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office for arraignment on a Supreme Court indictment, which remains under seal," they said. Earlier, Trump played 9 holes of golf at his Florida club as usual on Thursday morning. But the 76-year-old did not stay for lunch, even though his usual table was reserved. A source close to his Mar-a-Lago home said the Trump team was ready with statements and social media messaging as soon as the indictment dropped. "We had a plan in place, and the plan was executed," he said. "Getting surrogates out, getting content out." Within minutes, his sons Don Jr. and Eric were livicasting or tweeting. Fundraising appeals followed, and an emailed statement arrived from Trump himself in inboxes soon after. "I believe this witch hunt will backfire massively on Joe Biden," said Trump, before criticizing the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. "The American people realize exactly what the radical left Democrats are doing here. Everyone can see it. So our movement and our party, united and strong, will first defeat Alvin Bragg, and then we will defeat Joe Biden. And we are going to throw every last one of these crooked Democrats out of office, so we can make America great again." Trump is leading most polls of Republican voters for the party nomination. But the Manhattan case is just one of the legal obstacles he faces, including probes into efforts to overthrow the results of the 2020 election and his handling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Many leading legal scholars believe the hush money case may be the weakest of the lot. Trump and his allies had even floated the idea that the case was being dropped after a series of delays to grand jury hearings. As a result, the indictment landed out of the blue on Thursday evening. It leaves a city braced for protests. All uniformed members of the New York Police Department need to be prepared for deployment, according to memo obtained by the New York Times. His lawyers, Susan Nichols and Joseph Tacopina, promised to fight the political prosecution in court. President Trump has been indicted. He did not commit any crime, they said. Although he is the first former president to be criminally charged, he is not the first presidential candidate to be criminally charged. Eugene Debs, convicted of sedition and jailed for his opposition to World War I, ran for president 5 times. It marks a victory for the office of the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. Bragg's office has been probing a $130,000 hush money payment made by Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, to Daniels, 44. During the 2016 presidential campaign, the Trump camp was quick to blast the indictment on Thursday night, with Eric Trump telling DailyMail.com. It was the opportunistic targeting of a political opponent. Florida governor and 2024 rival Ron DeSantis offered a partial lifeline on Thursday, saying he would try to thwart the extradition of the former president from his state. He described the prosecution as un-American. Florida will not assist in an extradition request, given the questionable circumstances at issue with this Soros-backed Manhattan prosecutor and his political agenda, he said in a tweet, referring to the fact that Alvin Bragg's election campaign was backed by billionaire activist George Soros. Trump's Vice President Mike Pence also blasted Bragg's decision to bring charges against his former boss. The unprecedented indictment of a former president on a campaign finance issue is an outrage. I think the American people are going to look at this as one more example of the criminalization of politics in this country. Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel weighed in. She tweeted, "When our justice system is weaponized as a political tool, it endangers all of us. This is a blatant abuse of power from a DA focused on political vengeance instead of keeping people safe." Across the political aisle, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who were Trump's bête on Capitol Hill during his presidency, both released statements following the news. Pelosi said, "The grand jury has acted upon the facts and the law. No one is above the law, and everyone has the right to a trial to prove innocence. Hopefully, the former president will peacefully respect the system, which grants him that right." Likewise, Schumer said, "Mr. Trump is subject to the same laws as every American. He will be able to avail himself of the legal system and a jury, not politics, to determine his fate according to the facts and the law. There should be no outside political influence, intimidation, or interference in the case. I encourage both Mr. Trump's critics and supporters to let the process proceed peacefully and according to the law." President Joe Biden's White House declined to comment on the indictment. Meanwhile, it also emerged on Thursday New York prosecutors were looking to charge Trump over a $150,000 payment made to another former Playboy model. Bragg's team has questioned grand jury witnesses about cash given to Karen McDougal, who was Playboy magazine Playmate of the Year in 1998. Eric Trump told DailyMail.com, "This is the opportunistic targeting of a political opponent in a campaign year. They are ruthlessly attacking my father because he dared challenge the political elite. This is Exhibit A to the decline of American law." The former president has always denied having an affair with Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, but the case dogged him through his time in office, after triggering a federal investigation. In 2017, Cohen pleaded guilty to 8 federal charges, including tax evasion, fraud and campaign finance violations, and he told a court in Manhattan that Trump had directed him to make the payments. But the investigation disappeared from the headlines as other legal cases focused on Trump's family business and his actions around the January 6, 2021, riot hogged the spotlight. But it never went away. Although the Justice Department decided not to charge Trump and the Federal Election Commission was deadlocked over taking action over claims that the payment amounted to an undeclared campaign contribution, the Manhattan DA was still looking at the case. And it took on fresh momentum early in 2023, when Cohen met with investigators from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and it emerged that a grand jury was hearing evidence. Such hearings are conducted in secret, but one theory was that it was probing Trump for falsifying business records in connection with the payment, allegedly misreporting a campaign donation as illegal fees. That amounts to a misdemeanor, but that rises to a felony if it is done in conjunction with a second crime, such as a campaign finance violation. Then in March, Bragg's office asked Trump to testify, in the clearest sign yet that he could be indicted. The former president confirmed as much in a social media post at the weekend, calling on supporters to rise up in protest. The far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the United States of America will be arrested on Tuesday of next week, he posted on his Truth Social platform. Protest, take our nation back. The final act was reportedly the repeat testimony of Trump lawyer Robert Costello on Monday. He was asked to appear by the former president's legal team because he may have evidence that contradicted Cohen's account. Privately, Trump's allies are confident that the case has little substance. An insider told DailyMail.com that it strengthens him politically, rallying the base in his support. "It is very obvious that this is helpful," he said. He added that to get the second charge, elevating the case to a felony, prosecutors would have to show that Trump wanted to cover up an affair to help his campaign. Even though the business mogul's love life had been front-page news in New York for decades. Of course, no one wants to be indicted, but it is helpful politically and legally. It's not even that much of a threat, because the case is so weak and looks nakedly political, added the source. Legal experts have also weighed in on the case's failings. Although it may be politically popular, the case is legally pathetic, said Jonathan Turley, Shapiro Professor of Public Interest Law at the George Washington University, in a column for The Hill. Bragg is struggling to twist state laws to effectively prosecute a federal case long ago rejected by the Justice Department against Trump over his payment of $money to former stripper Stormy Daniels in 2018. Yes, that is how long this theory has been around. I wrote how difficult such a federal case would be under existing election laws. Now, 6 years later, the same theory may be shoehorned into a state claim. Meanwhile, on Thursday it emerged Manhattan DA Bragg's team has questioned grand jury witnesses about cash given to Karen McDougal, who was Playboy magazine Playmate of the Year in 1998. McDougal claimed she had a 10-month affair with Trump which began in 2006. Trump's office released a statement on Thursday branding the development a hoax. Evidence about payments to McDougal could either be used to bring new charges or establish a pattern of behavior for the Daniels case, sources told the Wall Street Journal, which revealed the development. A spokesman for Trump said, "It is sad to see radical Democrats and their partners in the media try to resurrect a dead witch hunt. Just like with every other hoax that President Trump has been targeted with, there is no crime, except for election interference through weaponization of our justice system against President Trump and his supporters." Bragg's office and McDougal's lawyer hadn't commented on the latest development on Thursday afternoon. American Media Incorporated, the owner of the National Enquirer, paid $150,000 to McDougal in 2016 for exclusive rights to the story about her alleged affair with Trump, which he denies. But the purchase was a catch-and-kill tactic to prevent the story being made public. The Federal Election Commission later ruled that the company and its former president, David Pecker, struck the deal with Trump officials in order to suppress the story and prevent it from influencing the election. The FEC ruling detailed how Pecker and Ami met with Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen to help make negative stories about Trump and his relationships go away, and it concluded that Ami coordinated with the Trump campaign in paying $150,000 to McDougal. Pecker gave evidence to the Trump grand jury on Monday.